Chinese ship. Spanish galleon. Caraval, Portugal. Built in China, Chinese ship. 700,000 years ago in northern Luzon, there were the proto-people of humanity using their stone tools to hunt and gather and live in caves. Back then, they were very short. 50,000 years ago, we have proto-humans living in caves. These proto-humans are Homo sapien by this point. They made pottery. Pottery making is one of the things that early humans did around the world, but especially here in the Philippines. Pottery making. Later on, around 2,500 years ago, people started making metal forgings. Metal forgings beginning with bronze and later iron. Metal forgings. And then here in the Philippines, we have agricultural terraces. There wasn't much flat land up north, so they did agricultural terracing. And you can see step by step, they did the agriculture in a terrace step format. Terrace step format. Around 1000 BC AD, they started trading with the Chinese. The local Mindoro culture here started trading with the Chinese. And around 1000 AD, that would have been the Song Dynasty. The Song Dynasty. Then around 1200 AD, you have the introduction of Islam. The introduction of Islam. Islam. Everyone has heard of Ferdinand Magellan in the year 1521. 1521, down in the Cebu, Bisaya area, they started to bring Christianity to the Philippines, and they conquered the Philippines for the next 350 years, beginning 1521. Okay, so around 1521, Battle of Mactan. Again, this is the Magellan fighting the natives, who was led by a leader named Lapu-Lapu. And this was around Cebu area, and they fought bravely, and they killed Ferdinand Magellan, and then some of the Spanish sailors went home to circumnavigate the globe. But rumor has it there was a Filipino who was actually the first one who circumnavigated before the Spanish. Okay, so we have Spanish rule here beginning in around 1565. Behold, special shout out to Donald Hendrick, who lives in Bihol now as an expat. Okay, and this is a scene from Manila in 1571, where you already see Spanish influencing the people around Manila, the Tondo culture. Okay, now we see in 1575 there was a Chinese pirate. His name was Ling Hong. So in 1575, we're still talking Ming Dynasty time period. Ming Dynasty, Ling Hong. Okay, and whoa, look in the reflection. What a sexy guy in that reflection. What a sexy guy. Okay, so the Spanish set up hospitals for the natives, Filipinos, Brother Juan Clemente's hospital he set up for the Filipinos, and that was 1578. 1578. So the first books were brought to Manila in 1593, where the local Filipinos were taught to speak Spanish and read in Spanish, even though they spoke a language called Tagalog, which we are still using today in Manila, and it is also the national language of the Philippines. Okay, and here's a battle scene between some of the local Chinese in 1603 in Manila and the Spanish conquistador overlords. So each side lost a lot of people. At least 20,000 Chinese people died in this, probably in the area of Binado. Okay, and here's the construction in Manila of the University of Santo Tomas, or in English, St. Thomas. Of course, this is Catholic, the Spanish Catholics. Okay, so in 1637 in Mindanao, you have a battle between the Muslims. There was a sultan, his name is Kudarat, and he fought some of the Spanish in Mindanao. Okay, Muslim Filipinos of Mindanao fighting the Spanish. 1637, also the same year as Tulip Mania. So a lot of Chinese were expelled from the rest of the Philippines, except for a small area in San Gabriel, Bay, and Binado. Binado is currently the Chinatown in Manila, although the people there, they don't really speak Chinese. Anyone who is in Binado is of mixed heritage, and they don't really speak Chinese in the modern day. That is what it is. And here's a colonial representation of the day that the Governor General Bustamante was assassinated in 1719 from a local resistance, in which there was going to be severe retaliation. Okay, here are a series of revolts that happened in Bihor in between 1744 and 1827, where the locals did not like what the Spanish were doing, so they killed Francisco Dahoy, in the Jesuit parish priest, and Father Gaspar Morales of the Spanish. Okay, here's an example of the Manila galleon trade. Galleon is the name of that big boat in the back, or it's the type of boat. A Spanish galleon, and those boats carried goods and to and from different parts of Asia, and then eventually back to Europe for Spain. Okay, during the 7 Years' War, the British declared war against Spain, who was an ally to France, and this spilled over into the Asian theater as well. This is from Manila, and you see the red coats of the British, and they are advancing on the city of Manila. This is very interesting. Okay, after the British left, the Spanish government came back to reclaim Manila, and then restored the mining, and then a lot of locals were put into indentured servitude as miners. Okay, here's a scene. You have the first newspapers being developed in Manila around 1811, just before the War of 1812. But that was not between the Spanish and the Manila people of the Philippines. Okay, a man by the name of Damian Domingo opens up a school for art, and this was opened in 1821. He opens up a school. He opens up a school for art. Okay, here's a scene of Sunday Mass at Santa Ana. Sunday Mass, where the local population of Tagalog-speaking peoples were converted to Christianity long ago, and now they were dressing like the Spanish as well, and then they were worshiping someone called the Jesus Christ. Okay, and here's the scene of 1860. You can see the townspeople are dressed in Western gear. Everybody's dressed in Western clothing here along the Pasig River. Okay, so various governor generals were sent to rule the Philippines by the Spanish government in Madrid, and so here is one for Carlos Marie de la Torre. Okay, and he ruled for a few years here in Manila, and here's his reception. Okay, 1881. Here's the introduction of the first mass transit. So you can see there's these like railroad car, but instead it's being drawn by a horse. And this is in the downtown Manila area. Some of the buildings are still around in downtown Manila. And of course, there is a worldwide organization that is the Illuminati, and they are called the Freemasons. Like, we know that the 41st President George Bush was a Freemason. There is Freemason symbols all over the back of the United States dollar, because there is a global conspiracy that says the Black Rock is the Freemasons of the modern day. And even back in the 1870s, they ruled. Okay, this is Jose Rizal, who is a national hero. He was a resistance fighter for the Philippines and rose up against Spanish colonial rule, but eventually he died in 1896. And here's Rizal, who is a very learned individual and published several books. And here's him in his study writing. Okay, there's a kind of a bizarro situation that happened. Okay, so there was Freemason ideas, and there was actually a KKK here, not the Ku Klux Klan, but it was called some Filipino words I don't even know how to pronounce, and they wore masks just like the KKK. It's very strange. Okay, so in 1896, that began the revolution against Spain. The Filipinos finally had enough, and the locals wanted to rebel and just get rid of Spain entirely. Okay? They wanted to get rid of Spain entirely. And the aforementioned national hero, Jose Rizal, was executed on December 30th, 1896 for treason against the Spanish colonial government. He advocated for Philippine independence and was executed for it. And here's the firing squad lining up to execute him. Okay, and again, that is the hero of the Philippines, Jose Rizal. Okay, here was the court martial of Andres Bonifacio, and another revolutionary leader, and here it is. Okay, so there was a temporary truce arranged called the Pact of Bicana Bato. And this arrangement was for the revolutionary people to exit to Hong Kong in exile, and in exchange the Spanish would allow the locals more freedom and autonomy, but neither side kept their end of the bargain. Okay, so back in the United States in 1898, in Cuba, there was a United States battleship called the Maine, and it exploded in Havana Harbor in Cuba. And then the newspapers said that the Spanish had destroyed the Maine, and in reality, 100 years later, we find out that was not the case. It just exploded because it had explosives in its cargo. So anyways, America blamed Spain and then declared war against Spain in 1898. And then the war spread to the Philippines. And what America initially represented was that if the Filipinos helped overthrow the Spanish government, and then they would get their independence. But America betrayed them. And then took over in rule, and you'll see soon. Okay, and this is the Proclamation of Independence from Spain, and this happened in Cavite, which is a suburb that is in the south of Manila. I went there a few days ago to witness the new subway opening near SM Sukat Mall. And this is where the Proclamation of Independence happened on June the 12th, 1898. Okay, and this is the Filipino flag that was created. It was created by a man named Emilio Aguinaldo. Okay, and this is the first flag of the Philippines that was used in the celebration of June 12th, 1898. Okay, so in 1898, on August 13th, the Spanish surrendered to American forces. They refused to surrender to the Filipinos. They actually created like this mock battle and then surrendered to the Americans on August 13th. And then there was a Treaty of Paris that was signed, which Spain transferred control of the Philippines to the United States of America for a sum of $20 million. Now, the Filipinos initially thought that they were going to get independence and the Americans came to liberate them. No, the Americans came to conquer, because that's what America does. But Aguinaldo was not having any of that. He said that the Philippines are entitled to self-rule and self-determination, and then declared a revolutionary government and a constitution on January 23rd, 1899 for Filipino independence. But Aguinaldo was proclaimed as the first president. However, I guess that's Aguinaldo, and he's the guy who made the flag. And it's a betrayal by the Americans for sure, but we'll see that soon. Okay, this is dark. I guess it was happening in the cover of night. The Filipino forces were supposed to surrender to the United States of America, and surrender they did not. So the General Arthur MacArthur, who is the father of later General Douglas MacArthur, decided to take action and then advanced on the Filipino position. And again, in the background, you can see the silhouette of a handsome man with the camera. Okay, so here is the American forces advancing on Filipino revolutionaries. This scene itself takes place in the area of Iloilo. Okay, and that's that. Okay, and here's more advancement of American forces on the island that we are currently on, which is the largest island of the Philippines, called Luzon. Luzon. Okay, and then here's the assassination of General Antonio Luna, the scene of assassination of Antonio Luna. Okay, some of the guerrilla forces, they were retreated to northern Luzon. You can see down there they were chased by American forces up the mountain and then shot. He was shot. General de Pelaire was shot. And these were guerrilla forces that had escaped the Americans initially, but then were later shot. Okay, so the Sultanate of Mindanao thought that the Muslim islands were going to gain I don't know what you call it, extraterritoriality and not be under American rule, but then the American Congress abrogated their agreement treaty on March the 2nd, 1904. Okay, and President Emilio Aguinaldo was captured on March 23rd, 1901. Okay, I'm just going to move to the next one. And then here is the surprise attack, Americans attacking more Filipinos. The museum's closing soon, so I'm going to just whip through this a little bit faster. And then here is American reprisal on resistance. Again, the Philippines thought they were getting independence. They thought Americans were going to be the liberators, but not. Okay, a scene. Here is a scene from a theater play in Manila. Okay, and then here is a scene where Filipinos were fighting a Spanish priest. Okay, and then here is more scenes. More scenes. Okay. So there was some limited autonomy, and Quezon was the leader, or he was the first president of the Philippines under the American rule, although Americans still had control of the island, but were giving the Filipinos more autonomy. And here is, in 1942, the Japanese during World War II occupying Manila. Okay, and those are Japanese soldiers. I went to the Intramuros, I went to Fort Santiago, and I saw the torture chambers where the Japanese were torturing prisoners of war. Okay, and then here is on April 9th, 1942, this was the fall of Bataan, where General Douglas MacArthur was losing the battle, and then he fled to Australia, in fact to Brisbane, and you'll see on my Brisbane video that I was in front of General MacArthur's office in Brisbane, and he said those famous words, "I shall return, I shall return." Okay, and then over here we have the Bataan Death March of prisoners, American prisoners, and many of them died due to starvation and disease. It was kind of like a reversal of situation like the Trail of Tears, where many people died, and but this wasn't the Trail of Tears, this was the Bataan Death March. The Bataan Death March. Okay, Trail of Tears is actually a Cherokee thing in America. Okay, and also you had some guerrilla activities against the Japanese during World War II. And here is the Gulf of Leyte landing, where American amphibious forces landed in the Leyte Gulf, and here is MacArthur fulfilling his promise to return to the Philippines. Okay, and finally, on July 4th, 1946, Philippines finally gains its independence from the United States of America as promised for helping fight against the Japanese. And this is the ceremonial incident that happened on July 4th, 1946, as promised. The Americans finally freed the Filipinos. Okay, thank you for watching this video. Let's see, we're gonna look at, let me see, is there anything? Okay, so we're gonna go back here and end the video pretty quickly. We're just gonna scroll through some leaders of the Philippines that ended or leads up to the current day. Okay, there's Roxas. Okay, Roxas Boulevard is named after him. And then there's Makati, and then later on, a very famous man named Ferdinand Marcos Sr., who is the father of the current president, Bongbong Marcos, who is the current president. And then here was Corazon Aquino. Okay, thank you for watching. Bye-bye.